What happened at this year's Oscars was unbelievable. And no, I'm not talking about Envelope Gate, although that was quite something too. After 2 years in a row where not one single black actor was nominated for an award, this year the Academy finally woke up to the fact that there are incredible films directed by and featuring people of colour. But instead of welcoming this overdue bit of justice, it's been pilloried. One newspaper picked out all the films that had been nominated and gave them a political correctness rating, suggesting that movies like Moonlight were more likely to be recognised because they ticked gay, black and poor boxes. It's outrageous and offensive to suggest the only reason films about black or poor people win awards is because of tokenism. And it's about time that white film critics woke up to the fact that films perfectly capable of winning on merit aren't only about people who look like them.
See, I don't know if I'm just a bit naive or what goes on in my head sometimes, but to me, I don't know. But to me, I don't live my life with the lens of he's black, she's white, he's a man, she's a woman, he's gay, she's not. I don't live like that. And I don't know any of my friends or the people that I hang around with that do. To me, I see people. When I think of that film at the Oscars, I will remember it for two things. The first is the absolute mess of handing out the award. And the second thing is so good I can't remember what it was. But it's like that. I'd never heard of the movie. I hadn't seen it. No. But I would not think, oh, that's a movie and it's full of black people or white people or Hispanic people. I would just think it's a movie, and I would hope that the movie is good. I haven't seen it. I would hope it's good, and that's why it's won. But then to your point, you just said people would suggest that we're being politically correct by making, diversity and putting diversity. Do you think there's any truth in that? Do you think people are trying to put in,
compensate?
Yeah, do you think there's truth in that?
I don't think there's any truth in that. I think what's happened is that the film industry has historically been massively biased towards films by and about white people. And the balance is starting to be corrected. And obviously, for people who are used to films being about a certain kind of person, that seems like a kind of politically correct diversity drive, when really I think it's just a genuinely fair marketplace. We haven't had a fair marketplace in the fall. We've had an intervention in favour of white films. So when you open it that it's just a market of ideas, then you get diversity on its own because there are these great films. Just to your point about what you said before, I mean, Michelle, I don't know what goes on in your head, and far be it from me to tell you. But generally, I think 2 points to what you said first. I think that and I don't want to be personal, but when a white person says, I don't see race, they're often speaking from a position of privilege where they haven't experienced racism. They are benefiting from structural factors that have historically disadvantaged people of colour. So it's fine for you not to feel conscious of race, and it's great if you don't go around judging people based on their race and gender, but I think it's important to acknowledge that people who are historically disadvantaged and do experience prejudice live in a reality where that is part of every interaction. And just the second thing I want to say, just quickly, about Moonlight, which I have seen, and it's a beautiful film. I actually agree with what you're saying in respect of that film, because people have said it's a gay film, it's a film about gay black people. But anyone who's seen it, it's actually not. It's a beautiful coming-of-age love story, and the fact that the characters are gay and black, for me, was completely secondary. And I think that's why it won, because it's a beautiful film.
But that was your point in your opening, was about merit, and everything has to be... Success has to be measured on merit, because that protects everybody within that space. When we're talking about the film industry, for me, the most disappointing thing, if there is prejudice, in the sense of, even if it's very sort of subconscious almost, is the fact that I would hate anybody, whatever their background, not to have equality of opportunity and, equality of aspiration. If my world's obviously football, and it would destroy me if I felt that there was a young player who was different for whatever reason, who felt that football wasn't for them. And I would hope that the acting profession would feel the same. Now, it takes time. That's the problem, because you're dealing with historic prejudice, and it does take time. But I absolutely stand with you in the sense that I think it was fantastic that so many different backgrounds were represented at this Oscars, even if the perception is that it's like
I just want
gone.
to let you hear from the director of Moonlight, because what you're saying is, I completely agree with, and the point is that when films like this are recognised, it doesn't just affect their own success, it actually creates change for future generations. A young person now watching the Oscars realises that you can be gay and black and be a successful director. I just want to let you see what Barry Jenkins said.
Do you think it is getting harder to make films like this?
Yes, it is. However, I think when there's a will, there's a way. The reason why the movie cost what it cost and was made as quickly as it was is because that was the best way to make this film, and hopefully the success of our film will make it less difficult and less hard to make these kinds of movies.
He's just acknowledging that it is still difficult to tell those stories, and actually Moonlight won because it was able, on an incredibly low budget, to be completely exceptional, but that's not as much progress as we'd like, because it means that you still have to be that one film that has hardly any resources and still makes it. But hopefully it will open up for more films with bigger budgets.
You say it won because it won. The Academy works. There are 17 branches to the Academy, and to be a member of the Academy, you have to be sponsored by 2 people in the department you want to be in. So there's the writers' part, the script, there's the actors' part, there's directors. There is no conspiracy across 17 branches of the Academy to keep out black actors, black films, or black movies. I don't believe that for a second. You've said the last 2 years...
Well, that's not what the Academy said last year.
Well, no...
The Academy said itself that it didn't think it was ethnically mixed. And
it wasn't representative.
What it's done is made it more representative this year.
Can I finish the point? The one thing the whole Academy votes on, all 17 branches, is the best movie. And hey presto, Moonlight won the best movie because everybody thought it was the best movie. Well, and that's the point.
I've watched I'm vice president of BAFTA, so I've watched virtually all the movies this year, and it's quite interesting. I watched Moonlight. I wouldn't have voted for it as the best film. I thought, we're all entitled to an opinion. I thought it was a good film, but I didn't think it was great. I personally thought Manchester by the Sea was the best of the films that I watched. But we should accept the Academy got pilloried last year because there were no black nominees, and they did change their structure and system quite rightly, so that
so is that positive?
BAFTA is
positive discrimination?
No, it's saying look, we're not reflecting what this society is today. We're not reflecting it, and that applies to so many things in any society. And it needs a shock like the Academy had last year to actually do something.
But can I just ask you about the last 2 years? Is it conceivable that perhaps there weren't enough films, the films that starred black actors, and if you want to call them black movies, is it conceivable they just weren't good enough?
If that were the case, I would be the first to admit it. But it's
You're
not.
Say aren't you?
There were films and there were people who were overlooked last year. Now, I am not for one person saying that films featuring or written or directed by black people should be nominated just to give the appearance of diversity. That's exactly what I'm arguing against. I'm saying this should be a system based on merit. It hasn't been. And to go to your point about the Academy, which is still, by the way, overwhelmingly white and male, even though they have admitted hundreds of new members who
It doesn't mean they can't recognise a good movie that stars a black actor.
It's not about a conspiracy, Carol. It's about unconscious bias. It's about the proven fact that people are more likely to vote for and relate to people who look and come from backgrounds like them.
Isn't the arts the one area where there is diversity and tolerance?
Clearly not.
No, if you read what Spike Lee said after last year's ceremony, he said, as I see it, the Academy Awards is not where the real battle is.
Yes.
It's in the executive office of the Hollywood studios and TV and cable networks. This is where the gatekeepers decide what gets made and what gets jettisoned.
And subject matter.
To turn around, yes. And
subject matter, I think, that does play a part.
I'm not sure I totally agree with this, because I think one of the things that people do when they're making movies, if they think there's a chance of getting an Academy Award, they will put the effort in.
You just have to listen to the experiences of black actors. Remember when the Sony hack happened and emails were leaked from Sony executives, and one of them said, a senior Sony person said, Denzel Washington, great, we'd love to cast him in a lead role in this film, but, people just don't like watching films with black actors. Take someone like Zoe Kravitz, who's doing incredibly well, a mixed heritage African-American actress, who said that the best she can hope for is to be the best friend of the white girl, and she was turned down for even auditioning for Batman. ban because they said they didn't want to go
you know, there
further
are plenty
with the
of
film. There is so much prejudice
There is
in the
plenty
industry.
of black actors who have been recognised. You know, tell Denzel Washington there's prejudice in Hollywood. Tell Samuel
He's
L.
one of the
Jackson.
people
tell
talking about
Morgan
the
Freeman.
extent
But
of
these
it.
people have been recognised for a long time. The very first person to win, the first black person to win an Academy Award was Hattie McDaniel, who won the Best Supporting Actress in 1939.
And do you know what role she was playing, Carol? She
Yes,
was
of
playing the
course.
slave
Oh, but
in a film that glorified slavery,
Yeah,
and that's
yes,
the reality.
but that
a
was
lot
the
of
times.
films,
That was
a
the
lot of
times.
films where black actors have been cast, they have to be about slavery, or the black person has to be.
But
playing the victim.
Afua,
60
isn't there
years ago.
the problem with you bringing this today? This is your subject today. Is a lot of people out there watching will say, well, you would say this because
Yeah,
of
so
colour.
how come none of you were bringing it?
Because of colour.
How come I'm the only one who's bringing
I
it?
would have done, but you got there first, Michelle.
When I ran the BBC and made a big thing about a more fairer and open employment policy, I also used to write, when people used to write and say, I didn't get this job because I'm black, I used to write back and say, well, that could be the case, or it could be that you didn't get it because there was a better candidate.
If
And that's the danger you face.
If there were
it's-
an even
Yes.
playing field, then any black person who didn't get a job would be able to say, I know it's a fair system and I didn't get the job on merit. As long as you have the perception of bias
but-
and as long as you have real examples of bias.
But people
are always gonna have that suspicion.
aren't that rational in their behaviour. They got
wanna
turned
make-
down for something.
I want to make a really quick final point on this. I've got two godsons who I adore who are mixed race. They're quite young. One's pretty much a teenager. And I've lost count of how many times I've heard my best friend, their mum, saying to these kids, look, because you're black, people will think this, so you have to do this, and people will think... And that's been put into them by my best friend since they've been growing up all the time. And I
It's such
say
a
to
new
her
part,
all the
isn't
time,
it?
why do you keep reinforcing to me that it's two kids?
Yeah.
They're
Maybe
the same.
she's
It's like-
preparing them for what she's experienced is the message that they're going to be getting from society. I'm not going to comment on how anyone should raise their children, but the reality is, I grew up with parents who never spoke about race. They said, you just be yourself, you can do whatever you want to do. I learnt about race myself out in the world, in the playground, in the job market, because people kept telling me what I could and couldn't be because of my race. So regardless of what your parents tell you, you will experience that. This is a society that is highly prejudiced based on race and visible difference, and that's just the reality.
Wouldn't it be worse if black actors got given accolades and awards to tick some diversity box? How insulting to them, how patronising
Yeah, but
to them.
Afua's
That's
key
kind.
point,
No, that's
Afua's key
argument
point was
can.
about merit,
Well,
and that is
thank
the
you, Grace.
essence of
Right.
what she's saying.
Yes,
Everything
it
based
is.
on merit.
And